Hi everyone, pushing through the pain here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Armand Hammer and the Alchemist project, Haram. This is a brand new LP from one of abstract hip-hop's most exciting duos in the underground at the moment. That's Armand Hammer, teaming up with legendary producer, The Alchemist, for an entire project of beats. Who is Armand Hammer? They are New York rappers Billy Woods and Elucid, who had an incredible run together through the 2010s, dropping some of my favorite hip-hop records of that decade, race music, as well as the impeccably produced Paraffin. Not only that, but over this course of time, I also have loved seeing the duo grow in terms of profile, becoming a truly beloved duo with a strong cult following, and I think it certainly says something that someone of the Alchemist's background and popularity is interested in working with them. I mean, the man's massive production discography spans decades and speaks for itself, and he's still dropping critically acclaimed material today, like his recent releases with Freddie Gibbs, Boldy James. Even Haram here seems to be getting a very positive reception. Now, I will admit, despite listening to Armand Hammer and Billy Woods music for years, this project did throw me for a loop a little bit, in a good way, because up until this point, Armand Hammer's been nothing if not consistent in terms of their sonic and lyrical vibe, but they really seem to be leaning into their impressionistic tendencies on this one, and The Alchemist seems happy to go there with them. Case in point, the track Pepper Tree, where Billy Woods accents his surreal, free associative spoken word bars over reversed jazz loops. It's trippy, it's bizarre, it's out there, even for Armand Hammer. There's a decent handful of sung tracks on this record too that I didn't really see coming either. God's Feet, where both Billy and Elucid deliver forlorn vocal leads over some chilling electric piano passages. There's also the closer Stonefruit, where Elucid performs in this deep bellowing rasp. Meanwhile, the instrumental reads like a woozy piece of vintage psych rock. The graveled roar of Elucid's voice on this track almost reminds me of the vocals of that dancehall artist Assassin, but in comparison, Elucid's execution is noticeably stiffer. Look, I'm not crazy about the singing on this LP, and I guess you could make the argument that Billy and Elucid aren't exactly out to prove themselves as proficient singers. I sort of see it as playing into an overall purposeful rawness of this project that you either get something out of or you don't. So even if the singing did read to me as being too awkward, maybe with the exception of SQUEEGEE, ultimately I do think it complements this record's winding tapestry of moody beats, grim verses, subtly psychedelic effects, and motif-based song structures. Many of the tracks on this record flow into each other seamlessly as well, using some strange sound effects or vocal clips or bits of instrumental to kind of coast from one moment to the next. You could say this LP delivers a more holistic listen as opposed to a set of tracks that are all very clearly defined, which again I think is appropriate given the instrumentals and the tone of the lyrics here. It feels like I'm just moving through the snapshots of a fever dream. Check the opening track, for example. Never has Armand Hammer's vibe felt so potent but also elusive, with the slow drum and kick patterns surrounded with all of these swelling reversed tones and melodies. The whole thing just creeps in like a sense of dread. With Billy Woods' opening verse, he spits bars on bars that read like old adages. Following this, Elucid flows with the precision of a samurai, as usual. The rhyme schemes are mwah, especially when he hits on a certain word or rhyme and he'll just combo it again and again and again and again. And of course, his words can be pregnant with meaning too. Take the shorter cut Roaches Don't Fly, for example, which follows immediately after, where I get a lot of themes of separation and partitioning off socially and culturally, maybe as a means of preservation, fortification, falling away from spaces that don't serve a sacred purge, extracted herbs, smack! My new name colonizers can't pronounce, and then of course the whole thing ends with this mantra that you don't have to be here if you don't want. Elucid sounding like a ghost that's haunting away anyone who just might not be on the wavelength of this record. The instrumental on Black Sunlight also has a very strange, almost Twilight Zone sort of quality to it. Between the skipping vocal, keyboard, and drum loops, I feel like I'm listening to just a broken soul record on LSD. And while everything instrumentally may come off very woozy and very strange, Billy Woods is just so concrete and so in your face and so clear and such an authority of a sound, brutally spinning all of these dense bits of wordplay and juxtapositions, like the smoking at church bar, or even the likening of Armand Hammer to Hagler and Hearns, shorted him like Bear Stearns. Billy just says so much with every cultural reference, whether that be a legendary boxing match or the 2000s meltdown of Wall Street. Billy's portion of the track radiates this unconcerned energy, as he says, which Elucid, as he follows up on the back end, amplifies even louder. This is maybe the most upbeat set of bars I've ever heard from Elucid on any track ever. Meanwhile, as Billy raps at the beginning of Indian Summer, it's like he's delivering, I don't know, the origin story of some kind of villain. I swore vengeance in the 7th grade, not on one man, but the whole human race. I'm almost done, God be praised. I'm almost done, every debt gets paid. I used to cut grass and smile like I meant it. We squatted in the shade when the mowers overheated. And you know what, knowing Billy Woods' lyrical pedigree and the things he's rapped about in the past, I have a feeling he's not talking about landscaping. There is a little lull around the midpoint that lasts a few tracks in my opinion, but things do pick up pretty quickly with the blissfully psychedelic Falling Out the Sky, which begins with an Earl Sweatshirt feature. Billy and Elucid follow up through the rest of the track with a lot of bars in their verses that are quite poetic and reference idyllic memories. Collectively, there is a fantastically grim energy with Billy and Elucid and Amani, as well as Curly Castro on Wishing Bad, and Quelle Chris's feature on Chicharronnes is absolutely a perfect fit for this record too. There is something about his flow and his nasally delivery that typically comes off very loose, and this is a very loose record, a very falling out of touch with the material world kind of LP. If there's any selling point to this record, it's that, and the ways in which the Alchemist's production enhances that. I will also say, for someone who's been listening to Armand Hammer for a while, Billy and Elucid thematically with their verses across this project were like really on the same page more than ever. Not that they've ever been working as like completely separate entities, but it seems like there was more of a focused effort than before to like really make sure that they're hitting upon the same themes and vibes on a lot of these cuts, which could have been a priority considering how great some of the switch ups between these tracks can be emotionally and subject-wise too. So while I can't say this is my favorite Armand Hammer project, I did love it. I did come away from this project enjoying it quite a bit. There were tracks around the midpoint I wasn't crazy about. It does not have the strongest ending of an Armand Hammer project either, in my opinion, even if Billy Woods' final verse on the entire record is like soul-crushing. I also have to note, I feel this album qualifies as one of my favorite kinds of collaborations when I do hear two artists crossing over in such a big way, and that is you have these two separate entities coming together to create something that they could not have done separately. This is not a sound, this is not a vibe I believe that Armand Hammer would have gone for or achieved without the Alchemist teaming up with them, and vice versa. I don't think this is the kind of record you would typically expect the Alchemist to have his hand in, if not for the fact that Armand Hammer was there kind of providing that opportunity, and obviously their artistic talents make the prospect of doing that a tempting one for any producer that actually kind of cares about his craft and cares about hip-hop as a whole, not just the mainstream stuff, but what's bubbling up in the underground too. Feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this LP, Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. Please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano. Music. Armand Hammer. The Alchemist. Forever.